Hello everyone. Welcome back. I'm Boomy, and today we are watching the Birds Tier List by TierZoo. This was suggested by Sammyman 9000 over here. So I don't know what this channel is about. Based on the thumbnails I'm seeing, as well as the channel name, it looks like this is gonna be focusing a lot on ranking different animals, I think, tier style. So just looking at the thumbnails here, I'm already seeing a lot of gaming terms that I'm familiar with. So I'm excited to see if this is gonna turn out how I think it's gonna turn out. So yeah, so let's just go ahead and watch this. So remember, if you like my reactions, don't forget to leave a like, let me know your thoughts on the reaction down in the comment section below, and consider subscribing. Also, leave your suggestions because, like I said, I don't get a lot of comments, so I always read every single one and take in your suggestions. And yeah, that being said, let's go ahead and watch the video. Yep, I think this is gonna go how I think it's gonna go.
Birds are one of the most popular playable classes in the game, with a huge number of successful builds and tons of cool strategies. However, some of these
I
strategies have
thought
clearly
so.
been more successful than others. So,
I was low-key hoping that he's gonna explain it in gaming terms, and I'm just happy to know that he is. It's the language that I understand. So this is gonna be good. I don't know much about animals myself, so yeah, this is gonna be a good ride.
so today we'll be going over the bird tier list to see which bird ranks highest. But before we get into looking at specific bird builds, let's do an overview of the basic
Pigeons
attributes and
versus
special
squirrels.
abilities the bird faction has access to, as well as a quick rundown of the history of the bird faction. So birds are one of the newer factions in the game, joining the game's roster during the latter part of the Mesozoic expansion. They began as an offshoot
Ah, so he's calling the different eras as expansion. That's really smart.
of the
I'm
dinosaur
liking this
faction
already.
that was specifically adapted to arboreal gameplay. But when the devs dropped the Cenozoic balance patch, these small
Balance
avians
patch?
were the only
Yeah?
dinosaurs not to be hit by the banhammer. Fast forward to today's meta, and birds are one of the most successful factions in the game, owing this success to a
What was that,
handful of
taunt?
powerful unique abilities, in addition to the obvious flying attribute. First of which is their beak. Now, beaks were not an entirely new ability for the reptile player base, but birds went far deeper into the beak skill tree than
Okay,
most
he's
dinosaurs
he's calling the different animals player and their builds probably.
ever had, with many bird players opting for extremely specialized beaks to give them an edge in specific scenarios. However, even the basic beak offers plenty of advantages. While the
Come on, dude, he
teeth
wasn't
does
doing
mainly
anything to
deal
you.
reduced damage with their bite attack, birds can be far more accurate with their pecking attacks, enabling them to hit weak points or secure grabs on smaller targets,
Yeah.
such
Critical
as the thin hurt
strikes.
box of a snake. Beaks also offer moderate protection, potentially reducing headshot damage and nullifying imprecise counterattacks. Beaks also
Man,
offer
I
some of the
love
best
this.
stab type damage in the game.
Yeah,
They
eliminated
deal
catfish.
massive damage on crit. Beaks are also
Man,
excellent tools for
Semi-Man 9000, this was a very good suggestion. I'm already loving this, his delivery, the way he presents it as uh, an entire game that is really unique and smart.
dealing with parasites. In fact, they're so good that oftentimes other less dexterous players will party up with bird support players in order to have a better matchup against
Was that a
parasites.
huge
Feathers are also
tick?
a unique and powerful trait exclusive to birds
Which we
that
just
provides
watched, by
excellent
the
bird
way.
protection without causing the user to become too over-encumbered to fly. Feathers also offer pretty substantial defense against crush-type attacks, which is especially important to birds because of their hollow bones trait. Hollow bones are another ability meant to synergize with the flying playstyle. Now, a common misconception is that bird bones are hollow in order to reduce equipment load, but actually they're hollow in order to let bird players fill them with air, which grants them a massive boost to their maximum stamina. Without this, it'd be extremely tough for a bird to fly for any significant period of time. The trade-off, of course, is that a broken bone not only deals serious damage, but also potentially reduces the player's maximum stamina by a huge margin. So a bird player will need all of the blunt damage defense it can get. And speaking of blunt damage, the bird's lower bone density means the bird's own blunt force strikes, like wing attacks, also deal
Wing
reduced
attack?
damage.
Really?
The top tier bird builds are the ones that can best capitalize on the strengths of their class while mitigating potential weaknesses. That about covers the basics, so let's get into the tier list.
Alright, let's go.
At the bottom of the tier list, we have two flightless bird builds, both with essentially the same glaring weakness. These are the kiwi and kakapo. Kiwis are hilariously part of the same faction as ostriches, emus, and cassowaries. For some reason,
Interesting.
they opted to give up the flight ability.
What about the penguins? Aren't they considered as flightless birds?
But didn't use the extra available skill points to spec into gigantism like the rest of their squad did. The result is a build that can literally only exist on island servers where there is no active
Island
normal player
servers.
base,
He's calling different countries island servers. That's good.
aka New Zealand. The kakapo is a flightless version of the parrot, and although parrots are undoubtedly excellent bird builds, the flightless weakness is too glaring to ignore. Due to
That's
invasive
true.
species like rats and cats establishing a presence on island servers, both of these flightless bird builds are seeing major declines in their player base, and I would not be surprised if they all ended up switching mains. Flight is just too strong an ability
Switching
to pass
mains.
up. Which brings me to the next builds on my tier list. So I
Rat
see what
heights.
these builds were going for. Being giant could potentially make up for the lack of flight, but in practice this didn't quite pan out. While these are technically the strongest birds
Oh yes, we got stats. Let's see, we got int, power defense, mobility, I think. HP, and I'm guessing that's stealth. So this is the ostrich type birds. Yeah, they are pretty
in
fast.
terms of base power and defensive stats. For their weight class, they are woefully underpowered. They're one of the few megafauna builds that can be taken down by cheetahs,
Oh no.
and they should be able to completely annihilate cheetahs with their powerful claws. Their huge weak point presents a lot of opportunity for counterattack too. So if they ever
He's gonna
into a
get
bull,
smacked.
they're setting themselves up for a
Oh
tough loss.
no.
Lastly, the fact that they are forced to nest on the ground forces them into an even more vulnerable position than most birds, as ratite eggs are extremely valuable as loot. Objective
That's
defense
really
is
true.
not an easy task even for high tier builds.
Yeah.
So for ostriches, emus, and cassowaries, this is a huge hurdle. Next on the tier
Really?
list, we have the hummingbird.
The hummingbird is way down in the list. Well, they don't offer much in terms of uh predatory skills, I guess.
This build spec'd purely into mobility and just about nothing else, and as a result is the only bird build with full 360-degree movement, similar to a dragonfly. This, combined with its extremely small size, enables the hummingbird to very quickly change direction mid-flight, allowing it to easily dodge attacks and fly around obstacles. More importantly, it allows the hummingbird to access nectar, which is an extremely valuable source of energy that's normally inaccessible to birds, since birds are usually too heavy to land on flowers and not agile enough to access nectar mid-flight. This all sounds great, but the
Interesting.
hummingbird also has two very serious weaknesses. The first is pretty obvious. They have no combat prowess at
Yep.
all, and any attack they fail to dodge will send them right back to the character select screen.
Ooh,
But in
no.
addition to that, the insane
One hit
energy
delete.
cost of their flight ability, combined with their total lack of fat storage, means hummingbirds will run out of stamina very quickly if they can't constantly find food. To me, this
Oh yeah, I think they need to like consume a lot of food every day. I think more than a couple times their body weight, if I'm not
is
mistaken.
a high-risk, high-reward strategy where the risk far outweighs the reward, so I have to place them in F tier.
That's true. Pigeons.
At the bottom
Oh
of D
no.
tier, we
One.
have the
This
pigeon.
is probably the most
Pigeon
annoying
doesn't
build.
really have any critical flaws, but they're held back by mediocre stats. In particular, the pigeon is sorely lacking in any combat-focused stat, like power or defense.
Ooh,
They do best
that
in
one's
cities
dead.
where their excellent navigation ability grants them an extra bit of safety by nesting among high-rises in loot-rich locations. But even in cities, pigeon players tend to be the main source of XP for higher-tier predators. Plus, if you're
Ooh.
just looking to play a bird build that's good at looting cities, there are better options available anyway.
Looting cities.
The peacock build
Peacock.
is another generally understated build, with high HP but little else to rely on. It does, however, have one of
Yeah.
the highest intimidation proficiency bonuses in the game, gaining a massive buff to all intimidation checks when its Eye Spot Feather ability is activated.
Eye spot
As
feather
impressive as this
ability.
ability is, the peacock's actual attacks do very little damage, so any player able to resist being frightened will have a pretty easy win. The peacock's diamatic display also blocks vision behind itself, making a stealth approach by a third-party attacker
Yeah,
extremely
easier.
easy.
Yeah,
And while they
that's
can
true.
escape by flying, the feathers of a peacock are so heavy that getting airborne takes a bit longer than most birds, which can be the difference between
They
dodging or
probably
dying
need
when
a
under
lot
attack.
of running start.
The Flamingo is a bit of an AFK class. Very minimal skill is actually required to pilot this build. They opted to spec into the filter feeding ability, meaning all they really need to do to gain experience and progress their character is pick a random spot in the lake bed and start digging around with their beak, scoring free
Oh,
wins against things
really
like
now?
snails and shrimp. However, when faced with
I
the
did
challenge
not
of any
know
player
that
anywhere
that's
near
how
its
they
size,
fed.
this build totally falls apart. They rely on water to impede the approach of predators in order to give them time to escape when attacked. However, this doesn't always work. Their pathetic defensive stats mean they go down in 1 or 2
Leroy
hits, and their
Jenkins.
slow flight startup means that oftentimes players will have time to rush them down even when they're in the water.
Yeah,
This is an easy build to rack up a bunch of experience with, but also a
there's
very easy
still
build to defeat if you know
easy
their weaknesses.
pickings. The chicken, here we
Ah,
go.
humble chicken, often compared to the T-Rex to exemplify how far the dinosaur faction has fallen. While I disagree with the implication, I don't disagree that chickens
Oh,
are indeed a
man.
low-tier build. While they aren't anywhere near as totally helpless as the kiwi or kakapo, they're still a barely average statted bird that lacks the ability to fly for any extended distance.
Dude, I can tell you, chicken scratches are, I mean, they hurt so much. During when I was little, during summer times, um I live, or well, I take a vacation over at my grandfather's place, and they have a lot of chickens there. Well, they're mostly tamed, in a way that they don't attack attack us. They're free roaming, by the way, just within our property. So yeah, they don't usually attack us, but they they do sometimes sneak up on you and just peck you or even scratch you, and that was really annoying, and it hurts too. But overall, they are a fun bird, I guess. Especially when you have like we used to feed them uh corn. We remove the corn from the cob and then just feed them directly. The tingling sensation when they peck your hand going for the corn is cool. If you haven't experienced it, you need to try it at least once.
They can certainly hold their own against most similarly sized opponents, but with poor escape options and no unique abilities, this build faces an uphill battle against most opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, I shouldn't say no unique abilities, but to be honest, their fast respawn rate kinda backfired on them due to humans using the factory farming strategy. Next in C tier we have
Is
the vulture build.
is humans gonna be another build in this series? Is it like just a different build?
The tankiest variant.
Because I'm
of
pretty
the
sure
tank
humans are gonna
subclass.
be
A good tank
the
build
best
needs to be able
build.
to accomplish two things. The first is area denial, which vultures do quite well. A few of them can easily lock down a carcass, one of the most contested points of interest you'll ever see on the map. They can do this
Vultures.
because of their large size and acidic projectile attack.
What? What? Acidic projectile?
Tank must be good at is shrugging off hits, and this is where vultures.
They got poison damage?
Their thick feathers easily shield them completely from smaller attacks.
No, not
Because of their
poison.
long
Corrosive
legs,
damage.
blunt force can easily crush their defenses and take them down in only a hit or two. So while they can defend a carcass from hordes of smaller scavengers, they don't have much counterplay towards bigger, more aggressive brawlers.
The command post is now under hostile control.
The
Woodpecker
woodpecker.
build spent the bulk of their evolution points optimizing and perfecting the peck attack, both in power and efficiency, with one goal in mind: to be able to hit insect players through cover. Burrowing is one of the safest, most effective ways insect players can
True.
avoid combat. But the woodpecker absolutely demolishes this strategy.
Oh, that
One of
looks
the main advantages of
disgusting.
this strategy is that having a powerful beak that's highly effective at drilling through wood also just means you've got a super sharp beak that's highly effective as a general purpose weapon.
That is
One of
true.
the main disadvantages of this strategy is that pecking at wood gives the woodpecker's location away, alerting more powerful predators to its presence while it's in the middle of pecking.
Oh,
and is
they're down below.
One particular woodpecker build, the toucan, opted to
Wait.
stack into more bulk and an even more powerful
A toucan has the same like lineage as a woodpecker?
beak,
I
which,
would
while less
not have
useful
guessed
for
that.
attacking insects through the wood, is still extremely powerful for PvP. All in all, interesting strategy. By no means flawless, but definitely has some solid strengths.
Yep, there we
So,
go.
I
Penguin.
went pretty hard on flightless birds up until now,
Flightless birds.
so you might be surprised to see me
Slap
rank penguins
damage.
as upper mid tier rather than low tier. The difference is penguins actually
They
swap
have
out
good
their wings
mobility,
for
though.
arguably equally viable alternative, flippers, which
Yep.
essentially allow them to fly through the water with incredible agility. This gives them a downright broken matchup against fish. However,
That's
this
true.
strategy is
They're
pretty
as
much
damn
only
fast.
viable on servers where there are no land-based predators that penguins would still need to worry about. So if for whatever reason a few polar bears ever spawn in the Antarctic server, it's kind of game over for that entire build. The predators they have to contend with in the water are even more dangerous.
Sea
and while
lions,
their agility does help them dodge
orcas.
attacks, ultimately it's still a totally one-sided matchup. Their strategy is pretty cool and actually fairly dominant due to limited competition. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the entire collapse
Sea
if the devs
doggo.
ever add new DLC in the form of an
Oof.
land predator, or even if they just buff the land mobility of the leopard seal. Still,
Ah,
C
leopard
is a
seal.
respectable position for a flightless bird.
The
At the bottom of B
goose.
tier, we have the goose. I've got an entire video dedicated to the goose build, but in short, the goose has solid base stats, including above average hit points. However, its abysmal power stat leads it to rely heavily on intimidation to secure
Yeah,
territory.
it doesn't have
This
a lot
can
of
be
damage, but a
unbelievably
lot,
effective at times,
a very
and it's not
effective
uncommon to see
intimidation.
top-tier predators flee an encounter that they easily could have won. Still, the obvious flaw in this strategy is that if the goose's opponent resists being
Boom.
frightened, the goose will be wide open to a punishing counterattack. In addition, the goose's weak spot
Stunned.
is easily exploitable by intelligent players.
Oh,
So careless aggression
man.
tends to be the goose's
Slap.
biggest strength and biggest weakness at the same time. All in all, still a surprisingly effective strategy.
Heron.
The Heron build put a huge amount of evolution points into maxing out the puncture damage it can deal with its beak, and it did so to great success. Herons have one of the highest damage pecks of any bird, and frequently one-hit their targets, even those with scale armor like large fish and juvenile crocodiles. The effectiveness of their
Crocodiles,
piercing
really
is
now?
amplified by their long neck, which gives their attacks a deceptively long range, giving their strikes an almost cobra-like flash to them. They have downright oppressive matchups against fish, amphibians, and all other small aquatic builds.
Oof.
One vulnerability they do
You did
have
not
is
see
that their
that
flight ability
coming.
has a lot of startup, making it a bit less reliable as an escape option if they do happen to get ambushed. Still, it's certainly not terrible. Another weakness is that their long neck presents a bit of a weak point, making lunging forward with repeated pecking attacks a bit risky if you get too predictable about it. Good players will be able to punish careless lunges quite hard.
Ooh.
In
Grab him
5B
by the
tier, we
neck.
have the Falcon, a raptor build that opts to defeat its opponents
Interesting,
using
a
speed
Falcon
and
is only
superior
B tier.
maneuvering rather than actual power. Falcons actually have a below average power stat for a raptor, and don't deal particularly high damage in close combat. Their talons are pretty small compared to
Oh yeah,
hawks, owls,
technically,
and birds, and
they
so
are
instead of
called
slashing and stabbing
raptors.
with their claws, falcons actually punch with their feet to disorient or concuss their target, and then
Stun.
finish the fight with their more powerful beak. In the right situation,
GG.
this can deal absolutely massive damage, enough to one-shot
Yep.
a mid-sized target at full HP. The drawback of
Get
this
that
strategy
fall
is that
damage, my
Falcons
guy.
only dish out high damage when they have the time to build up speed first. This makes the Falcon a pretty poor defender for objective game modes, and means the Falcon can struggle to win fights if its first attack doesn't connect,
okay.
as follow-up attacks will likely not have the same force built up as the first.
I'm sorry
Still,
guys,
the burst
it's
damage potential of this
it's
build
pretty
cannot
late
be ignored,
when I get to
so it
record
earns its
these
spot in
videos.
high B tier. This might sound
Songbird.
like an odd inclusion to cap off B tier, but songbirds are a highly efficient build for their size, and do deserve recognition on this tier list. This is a huge group, including finches, starlings, sparrows, wrens, and birds of paradise. And while some are flashier than others, they all have relatively similar stats, with extremely high agility being their core stat. Unlike many of the builds lower on the tier list that have difficulty getting themselves airborne quickly, songbirds have extremely low startup on their flight move, allowing them to reposition themselves easily.
Praying mantis.
This makes their approach very difficult to punish, making songbirds excellent at chipping away at defensive players, and makes them great at stealing loot from slower builds.
Yoink.
Their safety in numbers strategy can actually be somewhat intimidating and disorienting too, making it rather difficult to attack a party of songbirds mid-flight. While they certainly aren't invincible, having one of the lower HP stats among birds, they're an often overlooked but undoubtedly successful bird build. At the bottom of A tier we have the Swan. The Swan is essentially a goose that has the power stat to actually back up its attempts to intimidate. The wing attacks that most bird players use do very little damage and aren't very useful aside from pushing other players around. The Swan's wing attack can break bones and foes. Because of this, swans are one of the best builds.
Swans are so large.
Points of interest, as their hyper-aggressive playstyle can result in huge territory gains. Of course, they do have the same weaknesses as geese, so targeting the swan's neck with an attack can defuse the threat. But this is a bit riskier of a play against a swan than against a goose. All around, sturdy defender, definitely A tier. Next in A tier we have the Owl, the Avian faction's premier stealth assassin build. It owes this reputation to its special ability, which allows it to fly completely silently. This makes the owl difficult to defend.
That's true. I don't know if it's true with all owls, but a lot of species of owls do not produce sound when they fly.
As players
it's really interesting.
While not as stacked in the power department as their daytime counterparts, owls do have quite solid base stats. While they aren't likely to one-shot high HP targets, they do have enough force behind their attacks to be able to defend themselves and their territory, even from powerful enemies.
Yoink.
In addition to granting the owl the silent flight perk, the owl's thick, bushy feathers offer additional defense against attacks, enabling it to stand its ground in important objective defense scenarios. Interestingly, the silent flight perk did come at the cost of the waterproof ability that most bird feathers have. Meaning that falling into the water or getting caught in a rainstorm can actually disable the owl's flight ability.
Interesting.
Weakness, and certainly something that can be played around, but interesting nonetheless.
Hawks and eagles.
In the middle of A tier we have the eagles and hawks.
Wait.
Hawks and eagles follow the same.
If hawks and eagles are in A tier and they still have a lot, he still has a lot, left hidden in S tier. What are the S tier birds? Now I'm getting
same basic
intrigued.
Strategy, both having tailored their builds to focus on dealing maximum damage with their talons. Hawks are the smaller variants of this group, and because of this they are far more agile. While not as powerful as eagles, their agility enables them to weave through cover better than most birds of prey. This makes them well suited for rushing down players both in open terrain and in dense, difficult to navigate terrain like forests. Eagles, in contrast, are much more powerful, but their larger size and wider wingspan prevents them from entering dense forests. Still, in open
kill them with fall damage.
Eagles can be incredibly effective, dealing absolutely brutal damage with their enormous dagger.
Damn, son.
Enough to take down players in higher weight classes without even requiring team strategies. These are without a doubt some of the strongest bird builds in the game for PvP, and have been for quite some time.
Still have 3 S class.
At the top of A tier we have the
Is it because their
the pelican.
beak can just swallow enemies whole?
Grappling enemy players can be a highly effective takedown strategy, but birds struggle with this since they can't use their wings to grab, and since their beaks aren't always the most reliable grappling weapons, sometimes leading to targets escaping. The pelican's grapple is, in contrast, almost totally inescapable. And
once you get in, it's comparable to a Venus flytrap, right? Once you get caught, it's so hard to get out. Most of the time, impossible.
Is most effective against fish. It's quite powerful against other bird, rodent, and amphibian players.
Damn, they really do want to try to eat anything.
With the pelican's overall bulk makes it one of the most difficult birds to take down in single combat, and enables it to stand its ground against even top tiers like canines. So those of you who follow the channel for a while can probably guess what the top tier birds are going to be. If
No,
you can't, that's probably a good indication that you should be subscribed.
I am subscribed.
Those of
Secretary
you wishing
bird.
the devs could unban the Velociraptor build, look no further than the Secretary bird, as it has basically all the same awesome abilities and more.
Interesting.
Hunting on foot and in pairs, they prove time and
This
time
is the
again that
first time
striking from
I've
the
heard
sky is overrated.
of this bird,
They
I
can
think.
easily defeat other high-tier builds such as the Cobra and Mongoose with their high-damage kicks. Their stomp move has extremely high accuracy, allowing Secretary Bird players to score
Yoink.
game-ending headshots
Oof.
with ease. And they do all
It's
this
it's
without
mostly
completely
it's
sacrificing
mostly because of the speed. The higher the speed, the greater the force.
their flight
Even if
ability.
their feet is
If they
just
ever
so
find
small.
themselves outmatched, which only ever happens against builds in higher weight classes, they can still retreat to the sky or treetops. The fact that this strategy works in Africa, one of the most unforgiving servers of all time, is proof enough to me that this is the optimal raptor.
That is true.
These last two builds are about equally matched, both opting for the same
What do
specialization,
we get?
intelligence.
Intelligence parrots.
Parrots are an extremely unique build with several powerful...
Is it because they're very social and instead of hunting for themselves, they opt to coexist with say humans to give them food? Is that it? Because if so, that is really smart
abilities,
of them.
not the least of which is their Sonic Shriek, which can drive away just about any player who invaded their territory, especially when employed by a coordinated team. In addition, due to their prehensile beak, parrots have the highest dexterity of any bird, putting them among the best users of the tool use ability. And with an extremely high lifespan, if there was any build that could replace humans if humans ever get their intelligence nerfed, I'd
Yep.
bet on the parrot. I made an entire video on parrots if you're interested.
Interesting.
And
Now I
on
wanna
intelligence,
see that.
There's one avian build that arguably outclasses them.
Corvid.
Corvids,
Ah,
such as magpies, crows, and
ravens.
also opt for a high intelligence playstyle.
How could I
but with a
forget
far more
about
expansive social
the
aspect to
crows?
it. While plenty of bird builds use cooperative team strats, the best corvids operate using a network effect, where knowledge is shared with a huge amount of players over vast distances. This knowledge can include useful points of interest, or even blacklists of dangerous areas or players to avoid. But even individually, corvids have a lot going for them. With significantly higher stealth than parrots, corvids are much better at staying out of conflict. Their pointy beaks, while not as useful for tool use, are a much better combat tool for dealing quick damage. It's also more useful for pressuring and poking opponents, or for provoking larger players into battle, so that they can reap the benefits of the aftermath.
They're just
Corvids
gonna
are one of
wait.
the best builds at making use of human-made items, and quickly figure out ways of abusing the system to score big loot.
They
All
are-
in
they
all,
are
corvids
so
are
smart.
Basically what you'd get if you gave monkeys wings. Easily a top-tier build.
I can
So
see
there you
it.
have it, the complete bird tier list. Or rather, as complete as I thought possible for YouTube. If I didn't do a segment on your favorite bird, please let me know in the comments. Despite being the longest video I've ever made, there were still a few birds that I cut from the video for time's sake, or because I felt I couldn't discuss the bird properly without getting into territory that was potentially too violent for YouTube. If you're interested in watching the full director's cut version of this video, it's available to watch on Nebula, a subscription streaming service built by and for creators. Nebula comes bundled for free with CuriosityStream, another awesome streaming service and longtime sponsor of the channel.
We're gonna at least watch the ad, guys.
CuriosityStream is home to the highest quality nonfiction content around, with several thousand documentaries
I should
available
really
for streaming
subscribe
on all
to
devices.
CuriosityStream
Normally,
and
I'm always
Nebula one
plugging their
day.
incredible dinosaur content, which they have in spades. But this time, I'd like to draw attention to this great little documentary called "These Birds Were Made for Walking," which does a great job explaining the process by which birds evolve flightlessness. It's super interesting, so please, head to the link in the description, pick up that sweet 26% off deal, a year's worth of CuriosityStream for less than $15, and enjoy both the extended edition of the bird tier list at CuriosityStream.
Yep, guys, go ahead and go to curiositystream.com/TierZoo and subscribe to TierZoo. This is a really good channel. I like his presentation style. It speaks my language very, very much. So I was able to, despite me not having a lot of bird knowledge, I was able to understand and relate to what he was saying and how he was explaining, because that is a good sign of a good well, I don't know if he considers himself a science communicator, but at this point, I do consider him a science communicator, specializing in animals. So yeah, that was a really good video. Go ahead and subscribe to TierZoo, guys. Um, yeah, I was really surprised. I did not expect the parrot to be S tier. While they are very intelligent, I was thinking that he was gonna mention what did I say earlier? Um, their choice to, well, not really choice, but their preference to coexist with humans, so that we will feed them instead of them hunting for themselves. I think that's a very smart strategy. And yeah, the crows. Ah, man, I got blindsided by the crows because I knew myself that crows are really really smart. I don't know why I didn't think of them beforehand. It speaks to my knowledge when it comes to birds, I guess. But yeah, this was a really good video. I'm excited to watch more videos from him. But that's gonna be it for me today, guys. Link to my Twitter is down in the description below. Go ahead and check it out if you want to. And if you're new here and enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like. Let me know your thoughts on the reaction down in the comment section below, and consider subscribing. Also, yeah, like this video, it was suggested to me by a viewer, so please leave your suggestions on what other YouTube videos or animes you'd like me to watch. I'll be more than happy to check them out for you. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.